From the post-millennial, HHS recommends therapy, not sex change, to treat gender dysphoria. Thank God. The Department of Health and Human Services has released its treatment for pediatric gender dysphoria review, in which it recommends a greater emphasis on behavioral therapy when addressing gender dysphoria in minors over invasive and permanent medical procedures such as pharmaceuticals or surgery. This is the most obvious thing that we have talked about, I think, ever on the show. The idea of using surgery on children when they're saying that they're experiencing gender dysphoria is insane. They go on. The 409-page review stated that medical and surgical interventions for children and adolescents with gender dysphoria are widely promoted as essential and even life-saving. Yet the evidence base does not support strong conclusions about their effectiveness in improving mental health or reducing gender dysphoria. There is no such thing as trans children. What do you guys think about this?
Well, I'm really glad to see them being willing to put this out here, because that's truly what's happening. Children cannot consent to make those changes about their bodies. They don't even know what they are yet or who they are. Adults are one thing. Children should not be having this happen to them. And in many cases, if you even recommend that they go to therapy and try to make sure that they're really sure that before they start getting on hormone blockers or anything like that, that's not even allowed. And then you're blocking them from getting their gender affirming care.
I used to play Wonder Woman out in my backyard when I was like, it was like a couple weeks ago. No, I'm just kidding. This is like when I was like 6, and I'd be whipping around all the whips and like, I just pretended to be Wonder Woman. And then my parents were like, hey, come in and eat your spinach. I'm like, does Wonder Woman eat spinach? And they said, yes. So I went in and ate the spinach, Phil. And then if they were crazy, they would have probably thought I was a woman. They could have easily been like, uh-oh, my kid is actually a woman on the inside. I was just an actor. They enhanced my creativity. They were like, it's okay to pretend to be things.
Throw that lasso of truth around your waist, and next thing you know, they're chopping your genitals.
You know, and she kind of looked like my mom, so I was like identifying with my mother. And
did you have the Wonder Woman underoos? Did you remember?
No, I had Superman, and then my brother had a bat. I think I had a Batman one.
No,
they wouldn't buy. They didn't encourage me to be like a girl just because I played I played a woman on stage multiple times too. Yeah. What's that?
I was just joking around.
Were you though?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's always a joke when you talk about underoos.
I was lucky to have sane
and we
parents.
talk about trans people.
Underoos.
Because I wasn't trans, and if my parents had been scared or made a crazy decision guided by the media or by their peers, and they actually took me and started to be like, do you feel like a girl? Like if they had really sat me down and had, as I was 6, I would have went along with it. I don't know. I would have. They're my parents. I would have trusted them.
That question alone is insane.
Do you feel like a girl?
Do you?
I don't know.
Yeah, like
I have no idea what that feels like.
Like, how is a male supposed to know if they feel like a female?
Especially a child.
A child with no
before puberty. Like you don't. It's like you almost feel androgynous. I mean, there's the boy and the girl stuff going on, but
that doesn't really kick in until later, though. That you have any sense of like that the kinds of differences there are.
I mean, like, so when I was a little kid, I had a crush on my babysitter, but that wasn't like a developed understanding of what I wanted to relate from a relationship or whatever. It was like, oh, she's cute. He. You know, I was a kid. I didn't know.
I would chase girls around on the playground and try and kiss them. Not really, but like playfully, because I would see it on TV. I was mimicking. I'm like, boys are supposed to like girls, so I played that role. And if I'd been around a bunch of people being like, you're supposed to be a girl deep down, I would have been like, probably start playing that role. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, and particularly kids go through so many social pressures that they are looking for outlets. A lot of the girls that actually used to get eating disorders and things like that, instead they are choosing transgenderism. The book's been out for a few years. There's a very good book by Abigail Schreier. It's Irreversible Damage: The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters. Came out in 2020, but it's a very good book, and it talks about how these young girls, it's popular among friend groups, where friend groups will get this idea of like, hey, we want to reject this idea of femininity, and instead we're going to become either non-binary or trans, and they're going to change their ideology, but it's popular with these groups as a social thing, which is just insanity.
And it's so influential. My
It
God,
is.
the 5 people you're, even as an adult, your 6 closest friends basically craft your identity. You would do it along with them. And as a kid, man, to have your, and if one of them is jockeying for, is like more popular than you, it's like, you have the way you look up to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a status symbol as well. You look at the people in Hollywood that are like, oh, I have 3 trans children. It's like, do you really?
Well, now
do
Robert
you
De
really
Niro
believe that you have 3 trans children? Like, it's super rare, but all 3 of yours are. Really? Who's the one responsible for that, really?
Right.
You know?
And gender dysphoria is a real thing, but there's no reason for now it to be exploding at these really crazy levels compared to what it's been in the past. It's a social thing that's
I'm
happened.
not even sure
Well,
that
it
gender
doesn't make
dysphoria is
sense.
real.
The other thing too that I think is interesting about what you're saying is that the rates of homosexuality has basically stayed steady, and the rates of trans has like skyrocketed. It's sort of like, why does homosexuality stay steady, but like trans is off the charts? It's artificially, it's artificially done. But I think that with this HHS report, this is the difference between having a man leading the HHS and a man who thinks he's a woman leading the HHS. This was Rachel Levine, who was the assistant HHS secretary.
Pennsylvania's finest.
Pennsylvania's finest, who, took his mom out of a nursing home ahead of sending all the COVID patients back to the nursing home.
Very consistent. Very consistent.
Yeah, I mean, real ethical fella here. But this is a person who was consistently saying that it's important to affirm your kids, put your kids through sex changes, had like a big impact on the Biden administration. Joe Biden came out and told parents to affirm their kids, absolutely nauseating. And now we have a man who knows he's a man in charge. And we're not getting this kind of crap. This was a promise that Trump made. We're going to stop sex changing kids in the U.S. And, here we are delivering it.
I'm going to use my parents again. Oh, you going to say something?
Well, just adolescence as a whole is kids figuring out who they are and who they're going to be. That's essentially what you go through as that coming of age. And so you have all of this trans stuff that is going on. Look, as a middle schooler, I would have considered myself to be more of a tomboy. I'm like, oh yeah, I like sports. I like soccer. I like, I think guns are cool. I had a habit of collecting knives. I thought that those were fun. And those were the more masculine hobbies. But if now girls that might just be tomboys and have some, maybe traditionally masculine interest, we're telling them, oh, maybe you're not a girl. That maybe you're not who we thought you were based on what genitalia you were born with. Here, would you like to explore something else instead?
I think that we're missing a Mr. Rogers person in reality right now. And it's tough to centralize power and give that guy a TV show because who watches television? A lot of it's on the internet. But like just someone telling you, you're okay who you are. You are you, and that's okay. And it feels weird sometimes. That's okay too.
There was this wild thing. So Robert De Niro's son just came out as trans, went from being Aaron to Aaron to Airyn. So the name's the same, it's just spelled different. But one of the things that he was saying when he was talking to Them magazine about coming out as trans was that as a child, he never heard that he was just right, just the way he is. And so now he's finding that by now he's finding that like,
Totally.
But there's this weird idea that you're just right, just the way you are by undergoing drastic medical intervention. Like that doesn't make any sense. It's like you were talking about with the what?
Oh, I was going to say that's exactly the opposite of what they say.
Yeah.
Like, when I was a kid in the 90s, they were always saying, you can be anything you want. You're okay for who you are. And then at a certain point that changed to, you're not, they would tell people, you're not being represented for who you really are. Trust me, I know who you really are. And like this, people that are unfortunately vulnerable to that will fall for that. They'll immediately think, oh, well, these feelings that I feel like the unsurety of puberty, the weird feelings you feel like, the weird feelings you haven't felt your whole life up until that point, it gets manipulated. And that's what they love to do. Like Phil, we always talk about how they skin suit stuff. Yep. They take the argument and they make it this thing against like the oppressor, which is like your feelings and your emotions and like everything stressful. Like if DoorDash is like the biggest stress you have in your life every day, like this can be like fundamentally, it can be devastating for these people. But we don't see it like that because we've all lived harder lives. They do though. That's like the biggest thing for them. And it's scary. It's
the
gross.
goal the
Yeah.
goal does seem to make people think that the reality that they live in is actually the oppressor.
Yes, exactly.
You know, and,
exactly what I'm
and
saying.
so that way, and you can escape.
Your body is your oppressor.
Yeah, you can escape this oppression by taking control over your body and by coming out as a trans person, which is your true self, and that gives you some control over this oppression that you're experiencing by just existing. And you hear him say things like, I didn't ask to be born. That's one of the things that, kids say it, but also that's something that the leftists have really globbed onto. They're like, well, you didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be born, so I should be able to do this, this, and this so I can break free of the oppression of this reality.
The number of the crazy liberals that have multiple kids that are non-binary or trans, like there's just no way that there isn't some sort of input and influence in the household.
All over Hollywood.
Yeah, because they want to be a victim, right? They don't want to be victors. It gives, like you said, they want to stand up to the oppressor. They want to be somebody that gets to say, I'm different. I'm standing up to the man. And I got to tell you, this issue, okay, as a diehard Ron Paul libertarian, this was one of those issues that really got me to realize, you know what? I am going to go all in on Trump and Team Red, right? I get the debt. I get a lot of the things that happened under Trump 16. Obviously, I was not supportive of Biden. But when they are chopping off kids' private parts, when they are trying to tell these people that they should identify as something completely different, I mean, that's the time when you wake up and say, hey, listen, maybe it's time to fight against some of this radical stuff. This issue, though, when I came out and supported Trump, yeah, did I lose a couple friends and were people just rabid against Trump? Sure. When I come out on certain issues and people on the other side, yeah, I lose a couple friends. I have lost lifelong relationships over this issue just because I come out and say that telling a 9-year-old girl or a 9-year-old boy that they are not the gender that they were assigned at birth, that's Looney Tunes. That's crazy. And it's not a lot, but there are some people that really I was baffled by that I've lost relationships because they are just so bought into this idea that they get to choose and you're oppressing them.
I reject the concept of gender at all nowadays. I don't think that it's because what is it? It's your gender, it's your sex spirit.
Well, and even from a science perspective here, if just cut all the social part of it out, people that go through these sex change surgeries, there's a lot of sexual dysfunction there. It causes sexual dysfunction where they no longer have access to their reproductive system that they were born with. That's a huge thing. We see a lot of the adults that have transitioned and gone through that whole process that they're unhappy with the end result. And we're seeing more and more people push back against that. Maybe they're deciding to detransition, but they caused a problem to their body. They're having issues with their body now, health problems. And so just from that aspect alone, I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit and be like, whoa, like these kids want to make these changes. Well, do they know what they're signing up for in terms of their health?
They can't.
No, they can't.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.